aspects of type in Photoshop that we didn't go over are found in the character panel itself. I'd like you to take a look at the settings and the icons in the panel and experiment with them. Settings for kerning, tracking, leading, and more are easier to understand once you play with them. Kerning refers to the space between individual letters, close together or far apart, and kerning controls can be adjusted with numbers or individually or by using a set approach. To use them, place your cursor between two letters that you want to adjust. The default setting is usually metrics, which adjusts the space between letters according to the specific sizing the font designer chose. If the font is well designed, it may also include hints that will let you use the other set, which is called optical. This approach will space the letters within a font according to an optimum readability. You'll find this feature included mainly in open type fonts, which we did discuss briefly in the lecture. Whereas kerning refers to the adjustments between individual letters, tracking, which you'll find to the right of kerning, is space adjustments according to a block of selected text or word. Kerning and tracking are often confused. But if you remember that kerning is for individual letters and tracking is for words and sentences, you'll see the difference. Kerning is one of the finer points of typography, and it does take a lot of practice to get it right. Most of the time, you may be able to get away with switching the settings from metrics to optical in the character panel, and that'll be that. But that kind of broad stroke solution doesn't always cut it. So especially with large type and headlines, it's a good idea to play with your type's kerning. The difference between no kerning and some kerning adjustments can really be quite astounding. In some cases, it can shift your whole composition. The next layer of controls might be considered a bit dangerous. The top two controls in this section of the panel are for vertical and horizontal scaling. They're dangerous because they let you distort the shapes of the letters. Now, this is a particular issue for me as a designer because I work with type. And if you distort letter forms, squeezing or widening them, you more often than not end up destroying the intrinsic balance of their design. Type is designed, and each letter is a font that is designed, culled, drawn, and then decided on. With the simple click and drag of a mouse, you can break that down. This is an issue more for a typography course, but it's important that you're aware of it all the same. If we look further down the panel, we see the presets for bold, italic, all caps, small caps, and more. These are settings that you'll find in most word processing and layout programs. They're great shortcuts for changing the style or case of a text, but only if you use them if your typeface itself doesn't come with its own alternate version, like Arial Bold or Myriad Italic, that are designed especially for this purpose. There's a row below these options that you may not have seen before in another program. These are more advanced typographical settings, including ligatures, alternative glyphs, swatches, and other higher-end typographic alternatives. And these are settings that you will probably find in OpenType fonts, and then only in OpenType fonts that happen to support the extra glyphs. If you look at the paragraph panel, which is usually nestled with the character panel, you'll find many controls that you find in a word processor, or better yet, in a page layout program, like InDesign, for instance. Now, that's not a mistake. Photoshop has a very robust set of typography settings, as you've seen. Alignment, indents, and outdents, and hyphenation control are all found here. These controls are pretty straightforward. The real question is just how much text do you want inside of a Photoshop document? See, where Photoshop shines is in image manipulation and digital imaging. Now, I've found that unless there's no way that I can add text later in InDesign, for instance, then I'll resort to paragraph-length text in Photoshop. But I try to keep my digital imaging to Photoshop and my typography to other layout apps. Suffice it to say that while Photoshop is not a typographer's dream, it does give you access to a number of advanced and special typographical features and functions. The choice on employing them within Photoshop is, of course, up to you as the designer and the digital imaging specialist.
Did you like this video? Then subscribe today to stay up to date on our channel or follow us on Google+, Twitter, and Facebook. Visit sessions.edu for more info on classes and admissions. Also, don't forget to check out the links to free downloadable content in the description. Thanks for watching.